Never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bait and I make plans for 7:45 and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, sir. Good evening, CFN, and happy Labor Day weekend. Hopefully everybody had a fantastic weekend. The weather was good. A little windy, as Jay and I were talking about down Lake Erie Way. It was extremely windy. So I'm sure it altered some folks' plans as it did Jay and the entire Barnucz family. Lloyd, always a pleasure to see you each and every Monday. Ed, same as you, bud. We got to get out, and I will say this. We need to get out soon because the bite is on big time down in Lake Erie. There he is, the one and only Steve Shaw. Yeah, baby. Richard's in the house. Thanks for all the work you do behind the scenes too, Richard. Getting all those hoodies together for us and hats. Had a good chat with Richard today in regards to all that. And yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting listening to a bunch of older guys, I won't say old guys, but older guys talk about how do we put hats in boxes and how do we ship this, how do we ship that. So it's kind of neat. It's kind of cool. I don't know. It's just nostalgic, if you will. Mark, always a pleasure to see you. Bob, how you doing? Charles in the house. Always a pleasure to see you. Pat, nice to see you tonight as well. Eve's here as well. Eve, any tournament wins on the weekend that you wanted me to pay mention to? I know you were busy. I did see some posts. And yes, Jay, absolutely. Happy Labor Day weekend. And for what it represents, and unfortunately what it means, it was really cool because I live in an area close to the airport, so we got a good taste of what the air show looked like. Really, really cool. There were some really cool planes that were a part of it. So that is a nice thing. But as nice as it is a prelim to the end of summer. Now, I know there's a lot of events coming up in the month of September. CFN has a couple of their own that we're going to be talking about, but needless to say, September is going to be a busy month. So this might be just the layover for what could be potentially a very busy month. How you doing, Shane? Always a pleasure to see you. Steve's in the house as well. Jeremy, yeah, baby. Hopefully got to get some toothy critters this weekend. As mentioned, lots of events happening in the month of September. And I would be doing myself a disservice if I did not mention, of course, the Made in Canada Tackle Show that is going to be happening on the 22nd of September. Lots of things have already been booked. We have currently booked, which is really cool, the night before, the 21st, when all the vendors are doing their setup. We have organized a pig roast. So we have Sean, who we met up at Forward Lake Lodge, who has offered up his services for that evening. So we are going to have a pig roast out in the parking lot. So once you folks are done setting your stuff up, join us in the parking lot for what should be a great pig roast. And it's as I was just talking to Brad before we went to air, Things are lining up. We still have room. There's still vendors. If you're interested, please reach out, because we do have, one leaving, two join. So we do have room. We just got to make sure that we put you in the right place and put you in a place that you want to be. So please get in touch with either. Well, I will say Brad would be the best person to get a hold of, because unfortunately I'm not going to be around this week. But I just wanted to pay homage to this, because, of course, this is a big event. This is the industry, in my opinion, hoping to bring the industry together. And very proud to have Big Jim there, who's already signed up. Steve's going to be with us as well. So we've got some heavyweights from our community. They're going to help out in a big way. But as I said, we're hoping to see a lot of folks. We're testing the waters. We've dipped our toe in the deep end, and I know September is not a popular time of year to have shows, but we're not exactly running. We're running a unique show, so let's be unique. Let's think outside of the box, and if it doesn't work, we're going to find out. But I'm really looking forward to it, because, as I said, it has all the premonitions of the last show. All of the big names from the last show, and of course the Made in Canada tackle theme has really been it's been received quite well. So thanks for all the support. Thanks for all the help on behalf of Brad and I putting this together. And as I said, it's hopefully going to be a great event. Some other things that, of course, bring a smile to my face is situations like this. Now, that's Frank Thurston on the right, and our good buddy Dave on the left, and his son Hunter. The significance of this was that Hunter won this during the CFN Fish Off last year. And it was really cool to see Frank take the time to bring Hunter out. I don't know if they actually casted it and what, but they are definitely hooking up next year to catch a muskie. So thirsty lures, and of course our good buddy Frank Thurston. And David, thanks so much for sharing this. But this is just stuff that I love seeing, that our community gets together, and it's this kind of support that, again, it's what gets me up in the morning. I'm not going to lie. When you see this kind of payback, how do you not smile, right? How do you not get passionate about the fishing industry or CFN for that matter? But really cool to see that. So Frank, thanks so much for helping out. And as mentioned, this is the last stop on the NOWT trail. Tony, finally going to meet you in person, my friend. I am heading to the Sioux Wednesday with the intent to come home Sunday, but with yet another incredible event under our belt. And it's going to be interesting to see what fish are caught. And folks, I'm going to do my best to try and bring you as much coverage as I possibly can, Wi-Fi willing. They're pre-fishing right now, and they're catching some big fish. In fact, one of the anglers said, and I quote, the average fish is between 4 and 5 pounds. So when you're hooking up with that quality of fish and pre-fishing, I'm just hoping they find some big Wilmas during the event so that we can showcase that and showcase the fishery that is Sault Ste. Marie in that entire area. But we are going to put walleye on full display this weekend. As I mentioned, it is the last stop of the NOWT. And looking forward to meeting all the folks up in Sault Ste. Marie and all of the NOWT members that are going to be participating. It is sort of our last hurrah. We wish everybody well, and then it becomes the winter season. Hunting takes place. There's a whole bunch of stuff, and it's amazing. We are blessed to have so many activities at our disposal here in this country. And I know we go on and on about how lucky we should feel, but when you hear some of the stuff that's going on across the pond and around the world, yeah, we should feel extra special. We've got some great topics that we're going to discuss. Of course, Jim's going to be here. He's going to be talking about the new Vanford reel. It won some awards at ICAST, so we're looking forward to that. Lawrence is here with us. He's going to be sharing some news items that we need to know. And then Big Brother Jay Barnucz, Big Daddy, is going to be wrapping up. He's going to be the anchor, because we're going to be discussing everything that's going on at the Ganny. There was also an announcement made from the professional fishing tournament system. I got to pull that up, but there was a big announcement in regards to forward facing sonar that Jay and I are going to discuss as well. Lots going on, lots happening. So what I'd like to do now, because Jim's going to be talking about the Vanford, let's learn a little something about the Vanford.
Fast forward. Lighter, with more sensitivity, meeting the angler's desire for precise lure control. A new standard within the Magnum Light series drives the evolution of fishing performance. Vanford. Reels within the Magnum Light series feature rotors constructed from lightweight materials. Rotation resistance is minimized through a balanced reduction of wall thickness that maintains sufficient durability. A lighter rotor requires less force to start reeling and provides benefit in situations where anglers need to move the handle quickly. It also enables anglers to control the handle more directly to influence lure action more precisely. Vanford uses CI4 Plus in the rotor and body to achieve high sensitivity and light operation. CI4 Plus is a reinforced structure with high-strength carbon fiber mixed into resin. CI4 Plus exhibits higher rigidity under pressure when compared to general reinforced resin. Stratic, a reel at the heart of the Core Solid series, uses high durability resin for rotor construction and uses aluminum for the body. While Vanford pursues sensitivity and lightness, Stratic pursues high rigidity and durability on the water. Comparing the weight of each parts of Vanford and Stratic, there is a 19-gram weight difference in the rotors, which relates to lighter rotation. Additionally, there's also a 45-gram weight difference in the body, which promotes lightness and sensitivity. The conceptual difference is clearly shown. Now, we'll compare startup inertia between Vanford with MGL rotor and Stratic equipped with a high durable resin rotor. In an experiment to compare handle rotation speed, time for handles to stop and distance of lure movement is analyzed when identical force is applied to both handles. Vanford possesses both faster handle rotation and handle stopping speed, and the lure moved a shorter distance. Because start and stop reeling requires less power, anglers can control lures more directly and precisely while reeling. Stratic possesses slower handle rotation speed and longer rotation duration. The lure also moved further, showing the reel's power in retrieving with inertia. This is preferred when applying techniques that require constant reeling, which reduces angler fatigue. Vanford also features 4 trickle-down technologies, from top-tier Shimano spinning reels to increase angler performance and enjoyment on the water. Infinity Cross is a gear design that nearly doubles gear durability compared to previous designs. Infinity Cross provides smooth and powerful reeling performance when battling big fish on light tackle. Constructed with innovative materials, DuraCross is a high anti-abrasion washer. This new washer improves abrasion resistance by up to 10 times over previous version. In an experiment comparing drag washers with and without DuraCross technology, there's a notable difference in abrasion on the washer's surface under identical conditions. The washer with DuraCross shows less abrasion. The abrasion resistance was significantly improved while maintaining the smooth drag feel. When targeting fish that display sudden, aggressive movements, such as smallmouth bass, Duracross allows anglers to smoothly release the line when a fish surges, and then stop the line to halt the fish's run. Infinity Drive involves main shaft support construction design inside the reel. The inner construction of Infinity Drive provides the smooth and improved reeling performance consumers should expect from the Vanford series, regardless of fish size. Anti-twist fin, which minimizes line trouble, is an essential feature of Vanford. Equipped with lighter line and lures, finesse fishing presentations often result in loss of line tension. Loss of tension makes the line more likely to drop down into the lower part of spool. Anti-twist fin minimizes slack to help anglers avoid issues related to line drop. Durability, anti-abrasion, power, and trouble-free performance. Performance that responds to the angler's input is significantly improved.
So, Jim, first of all, good evening, my friend. Always a pleasure to see you.
I'm just loving this when I watch this. People talk to me and they ask me why our stuff lasts for 20 years, and guys fish with things and they love it, and it's all the stuff like this that they do, the research behind the scenes, eh?
Well, and have they ever done their homework when it comes to this reel?
It's just an ongoing thing. Like you've heard me talk about this so many times before about how you have no idea. I sit with Bob in Shimano last week and I said the same thing to him again. I'm looking at the reel. I'm looking at it, talking to him, and I'm saying to myself, how did they make this better? And I look at him and I go, how did they make this better? I was thinking that. And he says, I wondered what your face was saying. Like you just look at it. I see all these little pristine places here, and then I'm down the back here in a dirty old weed bed fishing with it. It's I rigged mine up on. I eventually got a hold of one. I rigged it up on a nice Zodius. It's just a perfect outfit. But people wonder what all these things are about. Fishing has come down to minute things to get the jump, especially amongst tournament guys, but not just tournament guys. I know a lot of guys that I see that fish all the time, and I tell you, they don't have the mindsets. Like they don't want to be a tournament person. Mm-hmm. They just want to go catch all the fish they can catch every day, and that type of stuff. And it's all these little things that you see. There was a part at the beginning of that where it showed them with a little bait sitting on top and the guy's wiggling the rod and it's just barely moving, the little plastic bait, things like that. And they have, you look at some of these places, they're absolutely beautiful. But I know where it went.
No, it's right there. It was right there.
Yeah, the plastic. And then they've got little things like hooks on these damn things are so sharp. I always get the name. Yeah, the piku is that little funny looking shaped thing like this that you can attach at the top.
Yeah.
Or you could attach. Ow, Jesus! The hooks are so small and sharp. It's nuts.
I was going to say good catch.
Yeah, well, I didn't have any choice. It just stuck at me. You see the little eye at the front or the eye on top. And I've caught a couple of fish with it just messing around out the back. I can't wait to get out and go fishing with it. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing how little things like that just, it's not the same anymore. It's not like a quarter or a 3/8 ounce jig head with a grub on it or a shad body and you're out there fishing the funking away. It's like, like 5 pound test line. And the line's so good now. Like I'm using some 5 pound test Power Pro's got a 16 pound breaking strength.
Incredible.
It's stuff like that. But the big thing that you've heard about, and this is where things like this allow these to come out, is the drift fry. That's these things here we talked about before. Mm-hmm. And they are got to be one of the coolest things. Guys knew I was going to Ganyon's on Friday. My phone rang not once, not twice, but 3 times. If Ganyon's has them, can you pick them up for me?
Is that right?
Yeah. So already we've talked. It's made out of a really stretchy material. It's not like the 3X, but it's a really cool concept. See the way it looks like a crankbait at the front,
Yeah.
but you put the jig head on there. When you fish with this and you reel it in, and it's just a steady retrieve. You keep the rod high, and you just keep fluttering the line. That thing goes. You've often heard me say that I was more side to side than front to back.
Mm-hmm.
That this caught way more fish, in my estimation, over the years, and that's what this thing does in the water, and that's what this became famous because of Taco Ito.
Yeah,
He's an elite guy. I have his chair too. We're going to be making fun of that too. I got that's the stage they have on the Bassmaster on the Bassmaster Elite, the chair they sit in.
Yes.
And he always comes out the Mercer and points and goes, "Taco chair." Guy's priceless.
He is a character, I'll tell you.
Amazing.
And he knows his fishing, and he has brought some things recently in this past year to our industry that we have never seen or heard of before.
Yeah.
That scent that he uses.
Oh, the dust. Yeah, that's what Mercer said, though. You don't want to be bringing that bag of dust in your suitcase.
Holy smokes.
We're still trying to, it looked like he had breaded pancakes in that box.
Yeah. I know.
What are you going to argue with the guy? I think he's won 2 elites. He's won a few other Bassmaster events, along the way and stuff like that. And he's been right there several times. He got burned by the weather down here this year.
Yeah.
He's the only person that didn't get burned by the weather was Corey Johnson. Why? Because they've done it for 15 years.
100%.
And that's just sheer experience. But these little things like this, and when you put it like that, like these reels come in 6 sizes, and they have 16, like what I would call superior features. They're things that basically nobody else has.
Yeah.
And I just keep noticing things too. Like I got to show you. I got to take the spool off to show you this. I never even realized this.
And I have to say, Jim, that was the thing that caught my attention right off the bat when I first saw it, was the spool on these reels is a lot weirder.
It's beautiful. See this? I don't know what this is called. I just realized it was there. See this little flange that you see that? Yeah, you can see it there.
Yeah.
So that fits when the spool goes on. That's underneath the spool now.
Okay. That's interesting.
Let me get that tightened down. So when you're reeling this, when you bring it up, you can see it. See the way it shows underneath? You can see it. And then obviously when you go down over it and you come back up, you see it again. Interesting.
Yeah, I can honestly say I've never
got a
seen
bite. I think it's a flounder. It's on the carpet.
But there's a lot. There's so many moving parts and so much to digest from that video, Jim. One that I truly loved was, of course, the disc, and the disc that they have, and the fact that they've done extensive testing to show wear on some of their lower end models to the Vanford, and they're doing such a fantastic job declaring it as the be all and end all of reels. And I would have to say, outside of a Stella, which I have never owned or even picked up, when you see this level of effort, this level of, as you said, detail and precise detail going into the making of these reels, it makes it a little bit easier to separate yourself from the money to purchase them. But it also gives you that sense of confidence that when you do separate yourself from that money, this is a reel that's not going to fall apart or you're going to have issues with 5-10 years down the road.
No, and it's, everything breaks. Everybody something breaks. It always happens. I haven't had a real break in. I think I had one break here one day. I forget what I was doing. And I fiddled with it, and then it didn't work.
Oh.
And I brought it to Giles, and he put it back together. Because I'm not a kind of guy that fixes things,
Yeah.
It's
leave it to the experts. And so,
and that's what Chris is there for. That's what they have the walk-in door in Shimano for.
So this is a great segue for Rocky, who's, and you're not the only one, Rocky, that's have had issues but I have to say it's been sporadic at best.
That sounds. You should call Chris Giles at Shimano and talk. That sounds to me like water's getting in the reel or something.
Yeah, it's creating some kind of back pressure of some sort that's not allowing the gears.
Something going on there. Something's getting wet. Maybe there's crap in the reel. You've got weeds in there or something, and it gets wet. And it
expands.
Rubs. I don't know. I told you about the famous reel that I had with the grease.
Yes.
When I cleaned the reel myself, I put the grease on it, and of course, I put way too much grease on it. Not way too much, but way more. I mean, with the grease they use now, they would put what I would refer to as a film on a reel. You open up a brand new reel, you almost don't see anything, eh?
Mm-hmm.
And the guys, oh yeah, they're trying to save money. No, they're not trying to save money. The grease they have now is, the stuff we used to use in our reels is what they used to put on the friggin' Caterpillar bulldozers. You know what I mean? It was so thick. So I have the reel, and I clean it and fix it and do it. Got all the little Q-tips there, got all the corners all clean. Oh, really nice, eh? I go out, I get up to the lake, and I can't turn the handle. I come home, and what the heck? I get home, I pick it up the next day. This one I used to ice fish every day. And I pick up the reel, and it's fine. I thought, I must have got ice on it, didn't something. I go back out that night, drop the line down the hole. Doesn't work, eh? So I talked to Giles. He says, yeah, take the grease out. It's freezing.
Yes. And just when you think you can never have too much grease, there's a perfect example of how you can.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rock, if you are interested, by all means, reach out to me after. I'll get you Chris's phone number. I'll get you the address. Yeah. If you do swing by there with the boat on your next fishing adventure, it'd be worth it just to stop by and ask the experts why you're having problems with those.
Yeah, and it's to have two doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I've never heard of somebody having two reels having the same problem. Wow.
Yeah. I was finding it with the neck save, Jim, when that year that we gave out the Celis rods and neck save reel. That was when, to Rocky's point, I was noticing that some of our CFNers were having issues with the reel, exactly as Rocky had described. It would break. It would not break, but it would break. And then it would free itself up, and then you'd be like, what? I don't understand. But it would dry out, and you'd have absolutely no issues with it. So yeah, Rocky, you're not the only one that.
Yeah, because water can't make that happen. So it's affecting something that's in there.
Yeah.
Is what it would be.
100%. So yeah, Rock, by all means, we'll get you pointed in the right direction. But yeah, I have to say, Jim, everybody loves these Vanfords. Like, I mean, it's almost to the point of a Stella, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to popularity. Like, there are other reels that Shimano puts out. I am a big proponent of their Noski, love their Noski. But I'll tell you, everything that they put into this reel, I truly appreciate and love. I love the larger spools. I love the drag system that they have. I love the fact that you're dealing with the with the steel
Ganaraska right there.
Yeah,
I use reels that are $1,000, and I've got reels that are $49.95.
Mm-hmm.
I play around with it all, and it's I think you treat your equipment right. You don't have. Let's face it, 3/4 or more of the stuff that gets broken.
Yeah,
is broken by anglers. Like the classic thing about it broke on the first cast. Well, that's because it was already broken.
Yeah.
You put it in the back of the truck, and the spare tire bounced on it and off it going down the road 2 or 3 times, and then it breaks, eh?
100%. Jim, just so the folks understand, because a lot of people may not fish with fluff, but explain how these reels are great for using fluff.
Well, for using anything that's really light, Scotty, like they talked about the inertia to startup speed and things like that. And you notice the one little thing I really love, and I had seen it before, that they did there, applying the pressure, and the way the reel isn't sloppy. It doesn't just it doesn't accelerate it like it doesn't have the weight when it accelerates, that it slows down faster. And that's like with the MGL rotor. It accelerates faster, but as soon as you stop it, it slows down because it doesn't have the weight to carry it on.
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. Because like when you're fishing with fluff, you're basically reeling it back, barely moving it, on 5-pound test line, 8-pound test line, but like maximum on that if you're fishing with an 8. But yeah, like these tests, these things that they do, it just proves what they tell you. And they don't just do it with 2 reels. They do a lot of these things. They'll go through 36 reels, and it'll go on for days. What they do, and that's the reason why they have the stuff that they have.
Well, I'm interested to know how long they had to use that electric reel to pull line off the Vanford for or even the other reel that
to wear
burnt
to wear it. Yeah.
Like, I would love to know how much line did you have to pull off for that to happen?
Well, I've never seen a drag washer worn like that, period, on any reel all my life.
Well, I've seen one in that kind of shape, but I was trying to put the reel back together.
Well, saltwater stuff.
Yes, true.
Because you get a fish in salt water and the damn thing swims away from you 75 or like 100 yards full tilt.
True enough.
It's not. We don't have anything that does that here. We got fish, that might take 50 or 75 yards of line, but that's because you're trolling and a Chinook hits your line, a wild Chinook. You're going this way and he's going that way. You don't stop. So the 2 ears are going apart. So the wear on the reel is really, really hard. You see all this saltwater stuff. These guys are sitting still,
100%. Now, Jim,
that little fin that helps with the tangling too, you could see it on a reel. You'd never get to see it on the screen here. What a coolest looking little thing. Coolest looking little thing. Like, I don't know whoever came up with that.
I'm like you. I could sit here and watch this stuff all day. I eat it up. But I have to ask, Jim. Like, I mean, I'm sure at this point, probably if folks are interested in a Vanford, if they don't have one, would you consider this one of the most versatile reels Shimano has in its entire line of reels?
Oh, for sure, because it's got 6 different sizes too, eh, Scotty?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we were playing. I had a buddy of mine here today, and we were playing around with some stuff, and like that's an Accents. That's I don't know, I think they're like $8.99 or something.
Okay.
And we played with this. That's what I used to use for fluff.
Okay.
You can see it's got the 5-pound braid on it. You can see how skinny it is there, the line. But I mean that, and you notice how full I have the spool for the fluff?
Yes.
Always be sure that you have your spool filled to the top. It's not as important when you're using heavier line or bigger reels and stuff like that, or larger lures. But with the fluff, having a full spool is a big deal. But we were playing around with these, and I sort of thought to myself, like, this one here is about 4 or 5 years old now, and they both sort of. I wasn't sure. It hasn't been used a ton. I wasn't sure which one really felt the best. Now the Vanford's brand new and everything, but I mean it's got a few more features than this reel actually had at this particular time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just it's one of those things. But it's a beauty. There's no doubt about it. And that's what they've done. That's always one of the things that they've done is they trickle things down.
Yeah.
And that's what makes a lot of the reels really, really nice when they get those hot. Like I said, this one's now, it's got 16 features in it. 16 features that they mentioned, plus a lot of other stuff that's just like in all the reels. So
yeah.
And
if you do want to do yourself a service and listen to someone to go into the kind of technical detail that there are some people out there want to hear, I highly recommend going over to JB DeRose's page. He has an 8-minute video on the Vanford that is ridiculous in detail. I mean,
well, he didn't get the nickname the Rain Man for nothing.
No. You put it this way, he would be talking at a level, I think, above both Jim and I when it came to some of the detail that he was going into. So
you and me put together for technical stuff. And I have on, one of the things about fishing with these drift fries is not having a big giant hook. And that's a 3/16 ounce BKK jig.
Nice.
They sent me over a bunch of stuff, and it just fits in that thing perfect. And the hooks on them, once again, I mean, they're as money can buy. But that's the 4-inch, and then there's it comes with a 5.2, which is a little bigger.
Yeah.
They also have one that's only available in Japan, but there's people are ordering them to get a 3-inch bait. I know quite a few guys there. I've seen guys that they got like 20 bags sitting in their boat.
Wow.
They're inexpensive bait, but they last a long time.
And that's it.
Yeah,
will
because
pay
I'm
the
still
money
on
for
the
that.
first one here. We've been going for 3 or 4 days fishing it, and guys bored it. My buddy Lewis was over there a few minutes ago, and he went down and he just was doing some stuff here with Tammy for her, and he ran down to the lake and fished off the dock with it for a while. I think he got a bite and he didn't know it because there's teeth mark on it now.
That's hilarious.
I'll have to bug him about that. I'll take a picture of it, send it to him later. Hey, you a little slow today?
That's hilarious. What have you got upcoming this weekend, Jim? And this
Well,
week?
working on the paper big time.
Okay.
Like big time. Like I spent all afternoon doing emails here. I think I sent 37 emails. So I'm doing that. We got to run grab some stuff quick here as soon as we're done. And then just keeping busy, going to the gym, doing lots of stuff.
You still tying a lot right now?
Yeah. In fact, I'm doing some stuff right now for David Burns down in Las Vegas.
Oh, wow.
He's a pretty cool guy. He's like a real live American war hero.
Yeah.
He's a cool dude. He makes a beautiful tackle.
Jeez.
Look him up on Facebook, David.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I've come across some of his posts, but
he's a pretty cool guy. He's having a few issues with his health there, but he's good again, and they got him taken care of. He's out there fishing. I was making some fluff for him.
Yeah.
He wanted some that looked like the little bait fish in their lake. I don't know what they are, whether they're little shad or whatever they are, but they're little things that are about 2-3 inches long.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's it. So I was making him little fluffies like this that would look like a bait fish in the water, right? And these are not he's not going to use these quite in the same manner as fluff would be used.
Mm-hmm.
These are 1/4 of an ounce, so he's going to be fishing these probably on 5-7 pound test line, and letting them sink down a little bit and get it done.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, I know you got to get going. As always, we really appreciate your time, dude. It's a treat to be able to discuss fishing with you on the regular basis that we do, but it means the world.
That was really cool the other day. I'll tell you one little thing. I got a note from a guy thanking me very much for taking the time out of Hortons.
Okay, yeah.
His kids were waving at me, and he sent me a picture, and the kid caught about a 4-pound largemouth on one of the lures.
Oh, way.
So that was it. Yeah. He thanked me for taking time out of my day. I spent about 20 minutes with the boys.
Yeah.
And I gave them a lure for each hand. They're young, eh? And then out of the blue, he says to me, he says, last year he was in the hospital, and I said, oh, what did you do? And he said, I had cancer. I looked at him and I went, get out of town. So that would make you and I like brothers. He said, I said, because I'm a survivor too. I put out my fist to him, and he lit up like a Christmas tree.
That's amazing.
Came over, punched my hand, and everything else, eh?
That's amazing.
And then I got them again. I said, hey, I'm going to give you guys a lure. I said, I'm an old guy. I forget things sometimes. I'll give you one for each hand. And the little kid kicked the older brother.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I thought I was losing it.
Well, Jim, there's been a few questions that have been asked in the comments section. When you get back and you get some time, please, by all means, really appreciate that.
And if
Jim,
don't take me up.
Drive safe, my friend. We'll be in touch.
They're both for you, Scotty.
You're the best, buddy. You are a gem. We are lucky to have such revered Hall of Famer and all-around good person each and every Monday with us. Big Jim, as I said, I can never thank that man enough for everything that he's done, not only for myself, but of course for everyone in this industry, man. I'll tell you. Of course, it is Monster Monday, and I did forget to mention that, of course, OFC Nation is going to have our 3rd annual retreat. So if you are looking for posts that are going to be coming up after the Made in Canada Tackle Show, this is what we are doing the following weekend. Brad, myself, and a bunch of others are going to be heading up to Camp McIntosh to hopefully hook something like Kevin did last year.
Yeah, baby!
Macintosh 2023.
Really looking forward to getting back to Camp Mac. Looking forward to seeing some of our community, some of our friends. It's always a pleasure to share fish stories with those who you know, who you like, who you get along with, and have the same passion as you. And also, I wanted to mention, Richard, I talked about it, but I didn't show it. Of course, the new CFN swag is available. These are Flex Fit hats. Richard is taking numerous calls, emails, and he's just being bugged at all hours of the night. Everybody's asking a million questions about these, and I want to thank Richard for taking the time to do it, because yes, it is extremely involved. But for any pricing, shipping, costs, this, that, and everything else, please reach out to Richard. He will gladly answer any question. And as I said, we are currently in the process of trying to figure out the best way to ship a hat. So stay tuned to that. Lots more to come, as well as our good buddy Lawrence Gunther, right after a word from our sponsor.
When it comes to Canadian food, we've got your back with flavors like lemon pepper, beer batter, campfire barbecue, lemon pepper dill, garlic butter and chives, and crispy Cajun. We've got a mix for every meal. Whether you're serving East Coast shrimp, West Coast salmon, succulent walleye, chicken wings, or veggies, we've got you covered. Coat your food in outdoor flavors. Available online or at these fine retailers.
Lawrence,
how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, buddy. And listen, I'm going to flip the script here. I'm going to offer some of my news that just came over here in the comment section. Our good buddy Steve just happened to mention that Joey Jaws Chestnut set a new world record, 83 hot dogs with buns in 10 minutes. There you go. Trump that, as they say. Thanks, Steve, for helping me out in a big way. 83. Think about that. 83. I wouldn't want to eat 83 hot dogs in my lifetime, let alone minutes.
Oh my God! What did he have for dessert?
I'm going to say a seizure, like a very quick trip to the hospital. 83 hot dogs
with buns.
That can't be good. That just can't be good for you.
Yes.
Oh, Laura's in the house. How you doing, Laura? Nice to see you as well. It's not often that we get to see you here on Monday night, but really appreciate that. And of course, we really appreciate this man, Lawrence Gunther from Bluefish Canada and Bluefish Radio, doing some wonderful things for our fishing industry, getting in touch with those in the know, those that are looking to get stuff known. He has a wealth, a huge library of podcasts. By all means, reach out to Lawrence, or just, what is it? Alexa, what's the latest on Bluefish Radio? And boom, up it'll come.
There you go, buddy. There you go. Yeah, man.
You think I rehearsed this?
You should be on the radio. Well,
yeah.
You are. You're on better than radio.
I got a face for radio, my friend. I got a face for radio. There's no doubt. So, bring us up to date. What have you been busy doing? How is the center? Is it getting close to being complete?
Oh, every week we're making major progress. I'll tell you, we got the new 18 Bass Buggy Sun Tracker 18 DLX tied up to the dock, to our 48-foot accessible dock with the 32-foot accessible wheelchair ramp. I tell you, it worked out perfectly. You pull up the Bass Buggy. It's a 20-foot pontoon boat. Well, 18, I guess, deck. And you pull it right up. You open up the wheelchair accessible gate to the pontoon boat, pop out the front seats, and a wheelchair can roll right off the dock right into the pontoon boat. Boom, there's room for 8 people, including the 2 wheelchair users, and off you go. And the lake's been performing really well. Lake trout, whitefish, smallmouth, largemouth bass, perch, panfish, suckers, pike, it's all there. And if it's not there, it's in the river next door. And if it's not there, it's at the other lake that we're connected to. It's just so many options going on up there. It's blowing me away. Every time we set the volunteers loose for a little R&R, boom, off they go in the side by side or the kayaks, and come back a couple hours later with all sorts of great stories to tell. It's just driving me crazy. We're just totally blessed up there. But we put a couple big giant beams today and took care of some issues with the advice of our engineer. So we're refurbishing that old building, man. It's looking pretty good.
Oh, sweet. That's awesome to hear, man. And as I said, like this thing, when it does open to I don't want to say to the public, but it will be the public.
Yeah.
Those who are basically in line to use a facility like this and gain the kind of experience that those who do not have any disabilities, are able to enjoy. I just think this is so cool that you're opening this up for folks who are handy capable, but still have some limits. And I, as I said, Lawrence, I think it's just absolutely awesome that you're doing this.
We ran into this guy. He's a driver for Home Hardware. He made a delivery for us Saturday morning. And he's got third generation Algonquin in the area. He's a trapper, hunter, fisher, and he knows this land that we're on. And he said, look up in the trees. You see some ceramic insulators. He said, this is the old telegraph wire that ran over to some of the chutes on the Ganaraska River, so they could transmit emergency messages when there was log jams at the chutes. And the road went right along our shoreline. And he said in the 1940s, when the logging died off, he said, this became a bit of a trailer park here. And he said, you're staying right now where you're standing was a world-class mini putt course. And I was like, no, you're kidding me. And then in the 1990s, a monk in the area said this would make a kids camp. And he was the one that built the cabin. And he built it using mostly labor provided by ex-inmates, right? People who were just getting out of jail and had to do some community service. So the monk said, come on, I'm going to bring you into the bush, and you're going to build this big cabin. And then he turned it over. The monk turned it over to the charity that ran the kids camp up there for 20 years. And then they turned it over to us. So we're refurbishing the whole thing, giving a big facelift inside and out, putting in some bunkies on the outside. We'll have accommodations for up to 25 youth in various bunkies and big canvas tents. And on the inside, we got room for 6 to 8 researchers and guests. So all year round. So it's a big project, fully accessible. Scotty, when I say fully accessible, man, that does not come without cost, right? We're talking a bathroom that's 10 by 10, 48 feet of wheelchair ramp to get in there. There's some sizable costs. So, but we've got some good donors, but all donors get tired at some point, but we'll make it through. We'll make it through. So far, fingers crossed, we're on track for sure.
Well, keep us up to date, Lawrence. As I said, if there's ever a way that our CFN community can lend a hand, you let us know, my friend.
Oh, we've been blessed with just amazing people stepping up, including Shimano. Absolutely extraordinary support from Shimano, and very blessed. I've been with Shimano since 2006, and through when I started with the blind fishing boat project, and worked through that, and then became a tournament angler. Did that for 10 years, and and then I said, look, I just want to focus on conservation. They've stuck by me the whole time, with the launch of the podcast and the newsletter and, stuff, talking about fishing and, not just how fun it is and what great tackle it is, but the need to take some responsibility and stewardship and ethics and all of that stuff. Shimano's been there for us all the way. So, and here they are, saying, look, everyone should have the ability to go fishing and enjoy the outdoors. And they're totally behind us.
Well, Lawrence, I find you as a person very difficult not to support, simply because most people, given your situation, and let's just call it what it is. It's at the end of the day, I don't think I'm saying anything out of turn, but you have a vision disability. Most people in your situation are just satisfied not running into things. You, on the other hand, take it to a totally different extreme where, it's hard to believe that you do have a disability. But doing tournament fishing and the fishing that you're doing, and then now building this incredible facility for the sake of other people that are handy capable. But hats off to you, man. I think it's just incredible what you're doing.
No, thanks, pal. Hey, look, I want to talk to you a little bit about blue justice and food justice. This was a topic that came up at a retreat I was invited to attend. There was a bunch of professors from across Canada that got together to talk about the Great Lakes and blue justice and food justice. They asked me to come along as well. We spent 4 days at the Queen's University Biological Research Station. That's a piece of land. They have 60,000 acres just north of Kingston. They own 3 lakes privately, and it's on another lake this is where all the research was conducted on pre-spawn fishing and post-spawn fishing of bass. Tons of great research on fishing going on up there. Anyways, blue justice and food justice. And I'm looking for some feedback from our listeners on what does it mean to have blue justice in the Great Lakes? And I'll give you a little idea of what they mean by blue justice. So we'll start there. Is blue justice is being booted around the world as an idea where you have these large-scale fisheries versus small-scale fisheries. And who has the right to fish and who has the right to access the fish? And do the large-scale fisheries, can they push out the small-scale fisheries? And how do you apply that to the Great Lakes? I think it has more to do with commercial fishing and recreational fishing and indigenous fishing. You've got 3 powerful stakeholders there that all want to have access to the same fish. And how is that being managed, right? Is it being managed? I think that's an important question. Are people being left out of from joining the table? Is there a table? Are decisions being made without stakeholder engagement? Is there transparency in how these decisions are being made? Is there a willingness to work together amongst the stakeholders and beyond, indigenous and recreational and commercial fishers, but even to, the community itself? Is there an interest in fishing and supporting fishing, or are we seeing less and less access to fishing? These are all important justice questions, and getting the stakeholder positions understood is, I'm the one bringing the recreational angler perspective to the table, but I can't do it alone. And so getting feedback through our newsletters, through our podcasts, and through this channel, Scotty, through your 20,000 followers, it's super important.
It is. And, Steve just brought up something that, of course, was just shared recently, but, it's unfortunate when we see what has gone on in Port Hope, and the counselors, and, of course, those from the MNR who have, I guess, arrived at the decision that they have arrived at. I know Jason and I are going to talk about it in a lot more detail, so that we're basically, as you say, educating folks the right way. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's great to have followers. It's great to have friends that you're able to discuss these things with. But we're at a stage now where some of this stuff needs to get out, and we need to get it out quickly. So yes, I as much as I love having the ability to speak to potentially 20,000 followers, the reality is we don't. And I wish we could. I wish there was a voice that was loud enough to be heard amongst all anglers, so that we could turn this ship around. We could right this ship and have the fisheries that we were and in some cases still proud of. But I don't know. I digress. I apologize, but I just like to see some of these some of these followings, some of these interest groups, maybe speak a little louder about what's important. And I know I'm going to task our CFN crew in the coming years to do exactly that, because I think we have created, as you said, a basis, a platform through which we can share some of the important information that you bring, Jason brings, Jim brings every week. So I don't want to hold you up any more than there. I know you've got a few other things you wanted to discuss, but Yeah.
You're bringing up a really good point. You know, it's we can be quiet and we can go about fishing, which is what we want to do as anglers, right? We go about our business, we do our thing for sport, for recreation, for family, for food, to celebrate life, to connect with nature, all of those reasons. But it's a personal thing. It's a personal one-on-one connection with nature that we're forming, that we're safeguarding, that we're nurturing. It's not something that we wear, you know, and we want to shout it out to the crowd, you know, that, hey, look at me, you know, I'm an angler. It's you know, because you don't know how people take it necessarily. There's people out there that are anti-fishing. They still exist. There, you know, just like there's people who are anti-hunting. And there's some people who say, well, you shouldn't catch them and let them go. That's mean. And there's some people who say you shouldn't harvest them. You know, and we're even facing now, you know, the marine protection areas. And what does that mean? You know, we're going to see in the next few years, if everything goes as planned, 30% of the Great Lakes deemed as some sort of marine protection area, national marine protection area. You know, who's going to have management over that? Is it going to be turned over to First Nations communities, which is what some of them want? Is it going to even happen? Our First Nations communities are going to say, no, that's not happening on our watch. You know, you can take your marine protection area and send that up, you know, the highway, because it's not happening here. So, you know, but there is those threats. And, you know, how does that impact our access to fishing? We need to start to have a voice. We need to start to have, you know, make a voice and speak loud about this. You know, when I read federal documents that say we have the obligation to consult with First Nations communities because they're in the charter, they exist in our policies and legislation. But when in terms of coastal communities on the Great Lakes, they don't exist. There's no legal requirement for the federal government to consult with coastal communities. You know, the Port Hope and other communities where anglers gather, where the charter boats, you know, leave from, where anglers go to launch their own boats. There's no requirement that they talk to these communities about how important recreational fishing is to them. I think that's a huge problem.
It is. And I think also what is becoming a problem, and I know Jay and I talked about it before we went live, you know, Legani is not a unique situation. There has been other situations that arose where government, council, or some governing body had to step in and do the right thing because, and this is the part that drives me crazy, is that we as anglers didn't do it right. We're obviously enough of us are not fishing ethically, are not treating the resource the way it needs to be treated, are not respecting, you know, the surroundings, whatever has driven this agenda to now unfortunately take away access to fishing, whether it be at the Gani or anywhere else for that matter. It's a direct result of anglers not behaving or anglers behaving badly, I guess.
I agree, you know, but I also think there's some responsibility to take in terms of regulatory enforcement, right? And if there's an absence of enforcement, because the enforcement people, the policymakers, the regulators feel that there's no value, or they claim they don't have the resources to do it. There's no reason to do it. You know, these are just hatchery fish. They're not spawning anyways. They're just going to end up dying. So who cares? You know, they just, for whatever reason, they just don't bother regulating and showing any interest in protecting the value of these fish, or even acknowledging that these fish have a value in the rivers. Yeah, they acknowledge they have a value out on the lakes for the charter boats, but once in the river, it's almost like they're garbage swimming up the river in their eyes. And if that's the message we're getting as anglers, that these fish have no value to our government, to our regulators, to anyone with the power, then of course we're going to start saying, well, if they don't care, why should we care? And things start to go sideways on us, right? Things start to go sideways. So it's like having no speed limits on the highway and no police enforcing speed limits. You know, things go sideways. So I think there's, you know, if we want things to go right, we need to say, look, we need people out there teaching and making sure people are following the rules.
So, and again, this went to the point earlier about, you know, it's great to have all these followings. It's great to have these interest groups, but is our message loud enough? Are we getting a strong enough message out there? that is being heard in such a way that we can circumvent these kind of decisions, these kind of closures, these kind of inaccessible means of fishing. Because from where I'm sitting, we're not. And it angers me that forward-facing sonar became such a big issue. And the underlying reason is because I believe that people are getting involved with this debate, not necessarily because of a tournament structure or what it does for tournament anglers, but they don't trust us anglers to do the right thing. That they don't believe that we're going to go out on a school and be okay catching, our limit for the day and not coming back right away to do it all over again. And I hate to say it, folks, but that is the message that they're giving us. That's the message they're telling us.
Oh, I agree, Scotty, 100%. That people are going to use this debate against fishing,
yes,
and it's going to fit right into their agendas to cancel fishing, just like people try to cancel hunting by tying it into military style rifles, right? That we shouldn't have these guns. People are shooting everybody. Yep. No one's out there hunting with a military style rifle. It's just ridiculous. That doesn't happen, with the kinds of clips they're talking about. To make, maybe it's a stretch, this comparison, but I think that's where this is going, is that people are saying that the technology has gotten out of hand, that it's too powerful, that we're now acting recklessly with it, and we're going to destroy the fish stocks and upset the balance of nature, and we should be stopped. It's fitting right into these agendas.
And it's, we look at PETA as such an extreme, right? We look at them as and unfortunately, it was easy to deflect or engage in those conversations because for the most part, we were educated anglers and we had a strong voice back when PETA became a thing. Not to say that they're not now. I don't mean any disrespect, but their voice isn't as loud on this side of the border as it might be on the other side of the border. But we've been able to deflect a lot of it just because we did act properly, and we did have folks out there, spreading the right kind of message. But all of a sudden now forward-facing sonar becomes an issue because we got places like the Gani closing, because we've got sanctuaries now looking to become developed. Because what narrative is this? Like, who's pushing this? And
yeah, I agree. It's if we're not looking as anglers, if we can't take care of it, if we're going to ruin it, then we've lost our right to access it. And fishing and hunting is a privilege in Canada. We don't have an inherent right to do it like First Nations people do. That's just the way the laws are based in this country. But if we don't stand up for our privilege and defend ourselves and have a voice at those tables, we're going to start losing access. There's a friend of mine, Hannah Harrison, out in the East Coast of Canada. She's a professor at Dalhousie University. She's just released her 7th podcast on access to fishing, access to shores, access to shorelines in Nova Scotia. And there's a colossal calamity that's unfolding out there in terms of access. And it just keeps building and building and building, and no one's paying attention to it. We've got to pay attention to this. It's we saw this out on the West Coast, right? When that one lone individual from that fishing club went up against the son-in-law of the Walmart family, who's now established the largest cattle ranch in Canada, and then has closed public access to public lakes on this property, lakes that people have fished at for decades. Yeah. People can't access anymore.
Yeah. Ed, it's an interesting comment that you make, but I think it encompasses all of it. Port Hope is going to be one stinky place very soon. And I understand the metaphor that you're using, but it is a metaphor with a whole bunch of other intangibles. And as I said, I think the Gani is may not be the first time, but in our recent history, this is the ground zero of, unfortunately, having some of our access clipped and our wings clipped when it comes to having access to it. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this all unfolds. But lots of debate, and we will get to all that with Jay. But before we do, any last things that you wanted to share with us, Lawrence?
Yeah, we got some funding. Bluefish Canada, like I talk to you guys quite openly and candidly about some of these things. I know it's being recorded, but these are my views, these are my opinions, and I'm going to share them. But I also play well. Bluefish Canada plays well. Our volunteers, our directors, our employees play well with other organizations, whether they're conservation groups, environmental groups, angling groups, whatever. If they want to work with us, we're happy to work with them. Freshwater Futures is one of these organizations. They gave us a grant recently to engage anglers in stewardship activities on the Great Lakes and set up some protocols on what that could look like and do some focus group testing. So that's starting to unfold soon. Also, the International Joint Commission it's a Canadian-American body that was set up almost 100 years ago to deal with disputes over transborder waters. And the Great Lakes, of course, is one of the huge ones, right? So they're having a 3-day invitation-only discussion forum to set up hubs, research hubs on the different Great Lakes, and who should be in those hubs and what should those hubs be researching scientifically. Traditionally, the IJC has looked at water usage, water quality, but they've understood that, they have to look at the big picture. It's not just water. It's who's living in the water. What animals are depending on that water and the habitat and the shorelines and the wetlands and all of that. So we've been invited to take part in those discussions. We'll be going down there next week to Ann Arbor and having a seat at that table and making sure fishing is front and center on those discussions.
Awesome stuff, dude. As always, you are a wealth of information, and you spawn discussion. And good. I'm hoping that you somehow create change, and we are able to do that with you, man. Because, as I said, we are at a threshold. We are vulnerable right now when it comes to our fishing, our way of life, our hunting, our heritage. I always feel like I'm with my brothers and sisters, man. When I'm with the CFN crew. You guys get me. You know these issues. You've heard me rant on a bunch of this stuff for a number of years now, and but we are making progress, Scotty. We are, and I appreciate the support from everyone. And thank you guys so much. No problem, dude. And as always, have yourself a great week, and we look forward to further progress in this research center. I can't wait to get up there to see it for myself, man. It sounds absolutely amazing.
The boys came back, two of my volunteers, young guys, 16-year-olds, and they said, "Oh, we caught this fish. It had a big mouth like a bass, but it had these big dorsal fin, but it was longer and skinnier, and it was really rough." I said, "You caught a walleye."
Yeah. Welcome to the club.
They were so excited, man. They were so excited. Then they came back the next day and said, we caught tons of carp. I said, what did they look like? Well, they were really smooth and slippery and soft and had the mouth on. I said, those are suckers. I said, they're great fish too to have fun with.
That's awesome. Right on, Lawrence. Really appreciate these stories, dude. That's awesome stuff. Keep up the great work and have yourself a great week, my friend.
Thanks, buddy.
Right on. We got Jay Barnucz coming up after a word from his sponsor.
Want to know the difference between power bait and other soft plastics? Ask the fish. Berkeley scientists have thousands of flavors tested on thousands of fish. Natural, man-made. Every bait that's ever hit the water. No matter the shape, size, or color, power bait is the only one that is scientifically proven. Fish bite and will not let go.
So there it is, Jay. That is the news that was shared. I guess it was this weekend. I'm not exactly sure what day.
I think the press release came out yesterday, maybe late yesterday or even early today. I want to say, actually, I think it was today, being it's Monday. So it's, so I've listened to a few guys and girls talk about this forward-facing sonar with NPFL, and I think it's a brave move on their part. I'm not going to say I agree with it, but I'm curious to see how it goes. I think that they put their neck out there for something that they believe in, And I'm curious where it does go, because regardless of whether you agree with forward-facing sonar or not, it is changing the industry. And I'm not going to say for better or for worse. It is a change. And so I don't like controlling the technology. I don't think we should be doing that. But hey, they stuck their neck out there, so we'll see where it goes. And every organization, Scotty, so MLF, Bass, and others, they all have to react to this now, because it'll be an expectation, right? So we'll see.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be interesting. And Sean, I love his passion. And at the end of the day, we're not trying to upset folks. We're just trying to.
Sean, don't hate us, buddy. Don't hate us, Sean. We're just trying to have a healthy discussion about new stuff going on. So,
but the two issues that we're talking about at I would say probably at great length by the looks of things, because there has been a lot of great comments. First, with the forward-facing sonar, I had to think, and I wasn't sure who I was going to put my money on, but I knew there was going to be a race, and who was going to ban it first. I think, to your point, someone had to take that first move, but now everybody's going to be cautious. Now that first move has been made, everybody's going to be cautious going forward. Do you feel the same, Jay?
Yeah, I do. I heard, and I kept hearing rumors on the weekend about, this is what happens when it blows, when the lake blows all weekend, and I have time to just sit on social media and troll through websites and look for, I don't know, get caught up in this crap. I don't like getting caught up in this crap, but I did. I'll admit it. I did. So the rumors I heard was MLF has their open side of things. So like the BFLs and that, I heard there was a rumor they were going to ban it there. I didn't see the NPFL coming out and doing it, but they did. So I didn't see that coming. Not saying I'm surprised. Someone had to do it. Someone was going to ban it. I don't see I'm not going to say they should have. I saw it coming though. There's enough differences. It's such a polarizing topic that it was going to happen, and it did. So now we wait and see, right? So,
and I know this is probably going to upset Sean to no end, but I'm going to thank the folks over there at the NLPF for doing it, because someone had to go first, and I'm only saying it because now that the seal's broken, now we can just get on with the regular order of things, because at the end of the day, we just knew someone was going to push the button. I was waiting to find out who it was going to be in hopes that it wasn't going to be someone like the PWT or Bass or what have you. That would have gone a lot differently. So NFPL, I will tip a hat to you for being the ones to do it, only because we needed someone to sort of, get it done. And now we can move on.
I've heard some great discussions about this. I heard some discussions on the weekend about maybe we need to think about how we schedule tournaments, meaning you can schedule tournaments on bodies of water where forward-facing sonar isn't like the primary player, right?
Yeah.
There are some sort of creative ways to work sort of in this hybrid realm where we aren't just so reliant on forward-facing sonar. I even figured that you might see groups do something like, okay, so Scotty, when we go out and we prepare for an event of any kind, heck, even just our own fun fishing, like maybe some of these groups might say, okay, well, you can use forward-facing sonar during your pre-fish, but you can't use it during the tournament. Like I kind of saw something like that might happen, like some sort of hybrid, because it is useful for gathering information. I hear all these stories though about how the tackle market is completely changing, where we're getting, like, we're not selling as many bait casters, we're selling way more spinning rods. Like, I don't think that is the driver. I don't see that happening. I don't see the tackle industry like totally shifting because of forward-facing sonar. There's a shift, but I don't think it's a shift to such an extent that we are going to see like, or it's going to go negative. I don't think it's going to happen, but who knows, man? Like, we aren't looking through the same lenses as some of these other folks. Obviously, in the news today from NPFL, we didn't see that coming, and it did. So, yeah, I figured there'd be some sort of hybrid to try and appease both sides, not go cold turkey. They have, and yeah, and Sean's point about you might see an influx of anglers, be them part of the old guard, who might prefer to fish without forward-facing sonar. I think that even some of the younger or newer anglers who might be like, well, why do you think I only need this to fish? I'm going to prove to you that I don't need this. Like, I think there's a lot of anglers out there that want to prove that they have the skills, that they don't need these electronics, and this might be their proving ground. So we'll see how it goes. I'm really curious to see how it goes. So,
and that,
but
I love that argument, Jay, because I do believe that there is. I see it even on the NOWT that there's an old guard that's looking to roar again and prove that they were, the tournament champion anglers of yesteryear, and that they can still do it. And unfortunately, this electronics and this technology has taken some of that ability. I don't want to say taken it away, but it's furthered the ability of folks that may not have the kind of intuition as some of these old guard do. And I think you know what I mean. But I will say, Ed, this is why I love you, bud. It's hard to stuff the genie back into the bottle.
Yeah, and I don't see that happening. I think that forward-facing sonar has been around way more than people realize, to be honest. Like, it's really taken a lot of leaps forward in the past couple of years, but it's been around the technology's been around for 2 decades, right? So I like Clun's making a comeback again. It could be. It is like using a drone to hunt deer, and I think there's a lot of analogies like this one that we can use. I know in the full press report that was made from the NFPL, or I'm probably saying that wrong, that they go into great discussion in regards to certain comparisons. And I think if you're looking for a comparison, you don't have to look far to find something that is on parallel to what forward-facing sonar represents to the angling community. So it is what it is. I agree, and there's so many anglers that have it, don't know how to use it. And Scotty, that can be said about electronics for any electronics. Like I still know a lot of anglers who have lots of bells and whistles but don't understand how to use them. And I'm talking side scan. I'm talking GPS mapping. You need to learn how to use those to your advantage. Okay. And a lot of anglers don't spend the time using it because the average angler only uses it a few weekends a year.
Exactly.
Like that is the reality. Like we're talking about a very small percentage of anglers who are really proficient at using these tools, right? So, like Scotty, I'm sure you've been in boats where you're with anglers who have lots of bells and whistles, but they don't have like half a clue about how to use them to be more successful. They use them to a point where it works for them, but they could be using the technology better. And I'm not saying they should. Like they're happy with what they got. It's fishing, man. Go have fun. Go catch some fish. Like you don't need all these things to catch fish. And you also don't need to be really good at them to catch fish, right? Yeah. You don't. Like fishing's supposed to be fun.
Exactly. Let's try and get Sean there in a hurry. I love the man. I love him. But I understand at times he can get passionate about issues, and rightfully so. This one is one of those hotly contested issues. If you have been an angler that has fished the Ganny from the time as far back as you can remember, you have some skin in the game. You've got a dog in the fight, and I get it. And regardless of what research was used, if any, what surveys were used, if any, at the end of the day, they closed the Ganny, and now we got to suffer as a community, an angling community, with the repercussions of what this is going to mean. And yes, I can only imagine the smell that is going to come from anglers not being able to take some of this catch home with some of the dead carcasses and what have. Again, yeah, this is it. We could spend all night, but just so we could get our bearings, Jay, I decided to take a screenshot of the area that I consider the Ganny, and this is the hotly contested area. Would you agree, Corbett's Dam all the way down to basically the lake? This is the area that is of all this discussion.
Yeah, it is, and so I think we should go through a little bit of history here. And I don't want to get this wrong, and I know there's folks in the audience tonight that might correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a while since I've actually spent a ton of time. I used to fish the Eastern Tribs a lot, probably from the mid or early 90s up until probably around 2010, and I fished them a ton. And the Ganny was one place I never spent a ton of time, but we did because it was a great spot. But they changed it, Scotty. Like, you have to understand, there's a history there where for a while you could fish up to the 401, up to Corbett's, basically, Corbett's Dam, and you could fish all that all fall. There was a point where they closed it, and you could only fish below the CN track. So after September 30th, it would close, and you'd fish from the CN tracks down from there to Lake Ontario, which is not a very long. Basically, it's the trench, is what a lot of locals will call it. Okay, you could fish from both sides at one point, the east side and the west side. The west side's been closed for a while. That's where all that industrial area is, and it's still closed. So what's happened now, from my understanding, is they've put in this. They've basically updated the regulations, which can be done without having to rewrite the actual book, because the book is good for 2 years. So sometimes getting regulations changed really takes a long time. So what's been done is the fishing now is closed until, so from Corbett's Dam to the CN tracks, it's closed until October 15th, which is unique in Ontario. A lot of our tributaries get salmon running into these systems, cohos and Chinooks, mostly Chinooks talking about, and their spawning season, basically by October 15th, it's over. Most of the Chinooks if they haven't been harvested or spawned, they will die anyways. So now what you have is, instead of the season being closed from the CN tracks to Lake Ontario, they have a special fall season, which is basically the river opens up from Jocelyn Street Bridge, which is just below Corbett's Dam. So from Corbett's down to Lake Ontario is open till December 31st. So it does open up some angling opportunities. And for those on the call, I'm not taking a side here. I'm just trying to, Scotty, you and I are just trying to walk ourselves through these changes and what it means. And there's a lot of people saying that we should have more enforcement, like we shouldn't have to close these things. But the reality is that enforcement, we just don't have the resources to do that. I wish we did, but we don't. And for folks on the call tonight, just understand that this has happened in other parts of Ontario too, and it just hasn't had the press that Port Hope has had. There's a few Lake Erie tributaries that I fish where this type of change has happened, where we went from just a season where, so basically the trout season is closed, let's say, but there's a lot of anglers who go sucker fishing, okay, in the spring, and they're fishing in areas where there's lots of steelhead. They're targeting steelhead. They're calling it sucker fishing. And so M&Rs come in and put in sanctuaries on a bunch of systems and sections of the river where the sanctuary is no fishing allowed at all. You can't wet a line in there, nothing. And that's happened. Even the sanctuary in Long Point Bay, Scotty, which is a huge area of the inner bay of Long Point, that that sanctuary has only been around for a few decades, and I know it seems like a long time,
Mhm.
but that fishery gets major fishing pressure, and it's exploited. Like there's a lot of people keeping limits of bass, and they're not following the rules. They're not following the possession limits, for example. And so what M&R did was they said, let's make half of the inner bay a sanctuary where bass can spawn unmolested by anglers. So you can travel through the sanctuary to fish past the sanctuary or inside, or like basically the inner bay, it cuts it down the middle. So you either have to fish the inner bay by Big Creek, or you have to go out to Pottahawk and past. It's a huge area. But smallmouth, but the inner bay population of smallmouth, and when season opens, it's still one of the best smallmouth fisheries on the North Shore of Lake Erie. And I think the sanctuary's done a good job of that. So it's a little disappointing because for so many people, the Ganaraska is like it is a traditional place to fish. And now it's been shut down. What I hope is that if we see changes happening, that I hope that as fast as it happened, that we will make adjustments, maybe go back and fine tune things as we learn. And I hope that both the agencies involved, municipal and provincial, that they are willing to make these investments to actually monitor what's happening down there, and hopefully maybe we'll see increases in salmon populations. We've talked on this show before, and we've had people come on here, experts, and talk about how we rely so much on natural reproduction in our systems. There's way more salmon reproduction than people realize. And people can argue with me about it, but it is happening. And our fisheries are managed that way. So by this should increase salmon recruitment in the Ganaraska River. It should. And I hope we're monitoring that to show that happens. And if we're not monitoring that, then a lot of these changes are wasteful. It's a waste of time to me.
Oh, thanks, Jay, for bringing that up. I saw that you'd made this comment before. Chinook and 90% of them being wild at the Ganny. That's a staggering number. And you know what? It is a true accomplishment that we've managed to take a body of water that, let's face it, had a lot of hatchery run fish in it. And now it has gotten to the point where 99% of it is wild. Like, that's an accomplishment in itself.
Yeah, and I see a couple of points about Sean. You make great points, man. Like, this isn't just the Ganaraska. You're going to put pressure on all the other tributaries. So Bowmanville is another one that really hits home, because that's another classic Chinook fishery in the fall. Like, it's crazy down there, right? I actually feel bad because I used to fish there all the time. Trevor wants to go salmon fishing. Like, he has an interest. He's 16 years old. Like, how many 16-year-old kids would go Chinook fishing in the fall? Like, I did. But I don't want to go down and fish in that craziness. But I feel I need to take him so he can experience it himself. But if we're moving pressure from the Ganny to these other systems, that needs to be in check as well. That needs to be monitored as well. And I'm hoping that we will get information about that as we move forward.
Agreed. And Sean, yet another great point, because it was going to be a segue to one of the questions I had. All right, we're doing all of this for all of the Chinooks and cohos. What happens during the steelhead run?
Yeah, so it's a good point, Sean, and we don't know that answer. And so I know they've opened up this opportunity, we'll call it that, for more fishing in the fall. Well, let's think about these different species. So steelhead will run all winter long, right? Fall, winter, spring. The Ganaraska has different strains of steelhead, so you'll see fish moving all winter. In the fall, a lot of the cohos are late runners. Like, they run often. They'll run through the fall, but a lot of their peak runs won't come until later October into November. And even the browns, a lot of those lake run browns, which Lake Ontario streams, out of all the streams that I fish, so Lake Huron, Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, they get the best runs of browns in Ontario is the Lake Ontario streams. And those browns will run right through the fall. So well after October the 15th. So, those fish are, let's put it this way, like the Ganaraska is not the hardest place to fish. It's pretty easy. And so they are going to be susceptible to angling, I think. So, yeah, like you've made it better for the Chinooks, but you might it might have a problem on the other species, right? So, yeah, it's going to be tough.
It is going to be tough. And Steve, and you were as passionate about this as Sean, but obviously our CFNers, our folks, our revered anglers of our community are keeping us up to date with what's going on around it.
Jason White. So that study, it's true. So these are all the different parts at play here. Is steelhead for the most part are released. Browns too. Like steelheaders are a lot like bass anglers in a way. Is that there is harvest, but for the most part they're released. One thing that is interesting about some of these studies for steelhead, though, is, and you remember this, Scotty, we went from a 5-fish limit to a 2-fish limit. Well, there's also data out there that suggests, and I can talk about some of my colleagues who are actually steelhead experts, and they've shown that the 2-fish limit isn't enough to help populations maintain themselves. It better to be a 1-fish limit for steelhead, or times of the year where there's more sanctuaries. Like, and these are numbers coming from fellow biologists and technicians who are also diehard steelheaders who love steelhead. But the data suggests that going from 5 to 2 really doesn't help the population. You need to go one tick down from there. But at least with steelhead, a lot of it's catch and release. So
100%. And yes, Jay, thanks so much for that. They are rainbows, not steelheads. At the end
that's
of the
another
day,
show, Jason. That's another show.
Exactly. I don't even want to get into that discussion, but needless to say, Jay, thanks for pointing that out. But this is going to be one of those things. We're going to have to live through it. We're going to have to see it, and hopefully, because there has been some change, that some anglers have bought into it. There is not going to be the shit show, as Steve has alluded to, down there, that perhaps there's a window of opportunity that they're going to open it back up. I have a feeling with the number of coho and Chinook that run that river during that run, they're going to have to do something with the fish. At the end of the day, there's not.
And that's the thing too, is we're talking dates here. Dates don't always work with fish, right? Their runs are based on water level, water temperature. There's a lot of factors that affect fish migration. I think that most years October 15th is a good time for the Chinook run to mostly be done. But hey, I just hope it's monitored. I hope that this is always my fear when we do any kind of fisheries management adjustment where we talk about a sanctuary, especially, is okay, let's close it, fine, but let's monitor how the improvements are, if the improvements are happening, and what's happening to other fisheries in the area. And if that's happening, I'm okay with making changes, but let's make sure that we are not scared to go back on those changes or to review those changes, because just to make a change and bending to political will, and I don't want to get into that tonight. Let's try and keep it with the fish talk. But this is what happens with some areas. And, Port Hope is, it is the small, and I know some of the folks have said in the chat, I don't disagree. It's the small percentage that are really ruining it for everybody.
Yep.
I have no problem saying that. So it's disappointing. But we need to do better as anglers, Scotty. You say that all the time. We need to do better, right?
I hate to say it, but I mean, unfortunately, the message that needs to get spread is not being spread loud enough. And again, I feel as if we're failing our community by not getting those people that are doing the kind of stuff that they may not even realize they're doing the wrong thing, but it's They don't know any different. They're new Canadians. I mean, I understand you need to have the ability to understand the license that you possess and all of the rules and regulations that go along with it. I get that. I totally understand that. But the unfortunate thing is some new Canadians just like to get out and fish, and they don't know what the heck they're doing. They can't read the signs. It's a different language. Again, these are all excuses, if you will, but there are ways for me to sleep at night knowing that, you know, our message isn't getting out there and it's not getting across to enough people.
Yeah. And Scotty, like enforcement, I think is still the number one issue that we're dealing with here. And we, you know, we are talking about there's Captain Pizza Man back there. You know, there's definitely a need for more enforcement, especially, dude, we're seeing increases in population. We're seeing increases in fishing license sales. We're seeing increases in just users of the resource, but we're not increasing enforcement. And that's not just salmon and trout. That's across the board. You know, come fall, you know, a lot of our CO friends, like when fall kicks in, the hunting season kicks in. Like duck season kicks in a couple of weeks, right? And then deer season. Like they get divided come fall. The COs really get divided in what they can focus on. They can only do so much. We're talking hunting and fishing.
Yeah.
And you know, I know around here, a lot of the COs become very focused on hunting because that's one of the primary user groups. And, you know, they have to deal with, there's a lot more checks and balances, I think, with hunting than there is with fishing. And so they have to pick their battles. They can only do so much. That's going to be the biggest challenge, but we need more enforcement, especially in well-populated areas. Absolutely.
100%. And I will say this, I think the only concern I have is based on some of the information that was offered here, some of the highlights, some of the stuff that was a part of the discussion, but was not necessarily a part of the final decision. I think the underlying concern I have is just how quickly this was done. I know there has been some lead up to it. There has been some study. I don't know if all of it's accurate. Again, we're not here to split hairs, and we're not part of the process. How the heck are we going to know? I just get concerned when we're able to do it this quickly. That's the only part that gets me.
Yeah, and George's comment makes a lot of sense to me. Like this is why this happened. Like it's so much easier just to make a sanctuary, and then it doesn't make the problem. It kind of makes the problem go away, in a way. But I still would hope that we are still. The concern is with the sanctuary, fine, but then my big concern is what's happening to the other tributaries, because the pressure doesn't change; it just shifts the pressure to the other systems, right? So, and you know, yeah, Jason, I agree with you. Like a little education goes a long way, and I know that, and in today's world, you know, inflation, like we're talking groceries here. People need to sustain themselves, and you know, you're taking away for people to eat fish. And I'm not saying a lot of people rely on angling to feed their families, but there are some that do that, right? And I feel that too. So
100%. Well, Jay, a great discussion as always. I don't have anything further. Did you have anything more to add?
No, man, that's it for me. Like a lot of this has just come across, you know, my phone and things in the last few days. And I try to, like with anything, man, like I really just try to look at both sides and be, you know, on this show, we try to be a little Swiss about things, right? We want to try and understand both sides. And, you know, we're not sort of being Swiss on purpose, but it's good to discuss both sides of these situations. And I think in this case, like, you know, this isn't the first time we'll be talking about this more, I'm sure. But what I feel bad for is I really hope some of the stuff I'm hearing about future closures and stuff, that it just doesn't happen. I don't think this is going to be a catalyst for worse things, or at least I'm hoping it doesn't, is what I'm going to say. So,
yeah, likewise, because again, I hate to bring back the obvious, but this was done pretty quickly, And with Skugog, the way that was done, pretty quick, I get concerned with how easy it is for us to change regulations and then accessibility to angling. So,
Yeah, and I think what's frustrating, Scotty, we've talked about this, like Skugog, brings up the fact that we make a change, but we're not doing anything to bring things back. Like we're just letting it, like, geez, man, like how long has Skugog been closed now?
4 years, I think 4 years.
Yeah, maybe longer. Like I think it was before COVID, right?
Oh yeah, you're right. It was before COVID. Yes, you're right.
Probably like closer to we're probably closer to 10 years than 4 years, to be honest.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
And what have we seen from that fishery as an improvement? You can't stock that lake, man. Like it's too big. Like you would spend millions, like lots of zeros, man, to stock it. That's not functional. So, but there other improvements haven't really been happening either, right? So what are we going to do? Are we just going to keep it closed? Maybe, but that's a real shame, right? So yeah,
it is a real shame. But again, we're obviously get everything right, but I hate to see it when we get it wrong. And again, we will find out what the Ganny unveils for us for the future and what it does to the anglers and the community at large. But needless to say, Jay, I always appreciate your ability to discuss these issues so that we stay on both sides and look at it from both sides, because at the end of the day, you can become very passionate very quickly and things can go astray in a hurry.
Well, that's a good note from George. Like I know, like they have been doing research on Skugog. We just haven't seen any like progress made, which is unfortunate. But Skugog has a lot of pressures, man. It's highly eutrophied. There's a lot of nutrients in that system. It's not the healthiest system for walleye, but they are coming back. It reminds me of Balsam. Balsam used to have very strict walleye regulations, right?
Yes, they did.
And I can remember fishing. I fished Balsam. Man, I used to fish that lake a lot. It was actually when I lived up in the Kawarthas, like while I was at school, and I was up there for like 18 years. I think I probably spent more days on Balsam than any other lake up there, even though I could have fished. Like lakes were closer to me. Skugog was closer. Sturgeon was closer, but I loved Balsam. It was a great bass fishery, great walleye fishery, great muskie fishery. And, back when there was still signs at the ramps about how bad the walleye fishing was, or all these restrictions, I'm out there dropping a tube jig on weed lines, cracking walleyes all the time. Yeah. I'm not targeting them. I'm fishing a tube jig. I'm trying to catch a smallmouth, for crying out loud. And all I'm catching are these like 3 to 5 pound walleyes on this, in smallmouth in between, right? Like it's wild. And this is before we had kids. So this is like late 90s, early 2000s. And it's even better now, right? So,
well, we can attest to this. Sean and the CSFL Lunker Hunt, we were supposed to be targeting pike, and they were using baits that were, I don't want to say exclusively for pike, but they were on the larger size, and they were getting 4, 5, 6 pound walleye smashing these things. Yeah. So to your point, back in the early 90s when Balsam was as good as it was, and I remember with my dad, God rest his soul, going up to Kobakong every closing, being able to catch our limit in the river there. I truly look forward to that. And then subsequent years after Dad passed, you didn't see that as often. Now I'm going to suggest that the walleye will be coming back if they aren't already in great numbers.
Dude, we're talking that's been 20 years to get there.
Exactly.
Like that's a long time. So Skugog, if we're on the same timeline, like we aren't there yet. We got time to go, right? And Mother Nature, in a lot of cases, Mother Nature will take care of herself, but we need to give Mother Nature time. We are just impatient sometimes. That's the problem. But this isn't the issue in Port Hope, but I think that's the issue on some of the fisheries. Port Hope, there's a lot more players at the table, and that's what that is. But I just pray that we are covering these things off, meaning we're not just monitoring Port Hope, We're monitoring the other creeks, Wilmot, Coburg, Bowmanville, Oshawa, Duffins. All those creeks get pressure. All those creeks are within 30 minutes of each other, right?
Yep.
So, like, dude, I used to creek hop. Like, we would fish sometimes 3-4 creeks on a Saturday. Like, we would hit them all, right? So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Jay, as always, very much value your time, bud. Appreciate your discussion, your forethought, your ability to dissect some of these tough, tough topics. And at the end of the day, I hope we're doing our best to try and educate as many anglers as we possibly can. But I love the discussion tonight.
And great chat. Like, thanks for Jason and Sean and a few others, for Ed for chiming in tonight, and George, like usual. Like, it's these topics where it's great to have outside input coming in. So we do appreciate you guys for chiming in, because it does help us with this conversation. So
100%. Have yourself a great week. Good luck with your pizza bowl.
Thanks, man. We'll see you guys.
All right, take care. As always, it comes. We're at the end of yet another great show. Thanks for all your discussion, as Jay mentioned. I love how you guys are able to sort of walk the tightrope and still keep it somewhat classy, even though you're getting some very strong opinions across. Really appreciate that, because that's not easy to do, especially in this day and age. People are extremely passionate, and sometimes it's difficult to express your opinions in a way that doesn't necessarily get the better of you from an emotional standpoint. But again, some great discussions. Really appreciated that. Have yourselves a great week. I'm going to be heading to Sault Ste. Marie Wednesday morning for the last stop on the NOWT trail. Looking forward to seeing some big fish come out of the Sioux this weekend. So to all those who are en route or already up there pre-fishing, I look forward to running into you folks from the NOWT again. In the meantime, have yourselves a fantastic week of fishing and fun. Like just let's make it fun. Have yourselves a wonderful week. All the best. Dave, take us away. Peace.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights. The party's over. They say that all good things must end.